Hello everyone and welcome to our Starcraft 2 video. For this one we're going to be doing a little tutorial series. In the dark ages of the Raven, where Blizzard had it nerfed to complete uselessness, I dabbled in using Protoss. So this is actually not me, but this is me up here. And I'm going to show you a couple unique builds I came up with for Protoss that are quite effective. I got to a higher MMR than my Terran after practicing Terran for 6 years. So yeah, they're pretty good. So this is going to be my PvT build. It's quite cheesy, but also quite effective. And it's going to be a Proxy Tempest rush. And I know something like this probably already exists, but I think this is unique in that I open with a forge. So it's not just proxy shield batteries, but cannons, which allows me to get a forward position a lot easier. And, you know, cannons has some advantages over shield batteries. Can't just overwhelm me with Vikings or something because you can't fly over the cannon area. So you're going to throw down the pylon and immediately send out the same worker to your opponent's base. And as soon as the pylon's done, you're going to build a forge. Once you arrive at your opponent's base, you want to throw down a pylon because we're going to be cannoning the bottom of his ramp. And you want to look for a location that's, first of all, not easily scouted. Think of like if a worker leaves his base along this angle, make sure that path, like you can see everything along here, so don't build anything there. And secondly, you want to be able to protect your first cannon against SCV surround. Your next structure here is going to be a gateway. So with a pylon and a gateway, look for a place to wall off. So in this case, I'm doing that like this, which leaves a spot for a cannon right here, which can only be attacked by 1-2 SCVs, which is fine. As soon as you have the minerals, we're going to throw down a gateway, which I should be doing already. Oh, right, we know I completed pylon. Yeah, so the forge finishes first, so we should be able to throw down a gateway and a cannon right away. There we go. And I trapped myself. Okay, unfortunately he does scout it. Looks like he was considering a Reaper expand. Yeah, it looks like he was. But again, first cannon is pretty safe, so it's not the end of the world. At the same time, I am scouting all around my area. If he has an SCV out on the map, it can cause issues for many reasons, but the main one is if he sets up proxy structures. You don't want like proxy cyclones running into your base or something like that. We want anything that comes out of his base to have to come out via medevac. So that kind of limits his options. You don't even want him building a command center out on the map somewhere to set up a proxy second base. At home, I fully saturate the minerals. I guess I can back up a bit because I missed a portion of the build here. So as soon as you throw down the gateway and the cannon, you're going to immediately take your next gases. And as soon as you hit 16 of 16 on the workers, make sure you got 2 in each patch, and then start queuing your workers onto these gas geysers. So we're prioritizing full mineral income before we go into gas. That'll still leave us enough gas to be building, you know, 1 Tempest at a time, and it'll give us a maximum amount of minerals, which you need for various things, including your defense we're setting up here. So immediate reaction from my opponent when he saw the proxy gateway was to set up a bunker and to finish a wall off, and I'm perfectly okay with that because that's not going to help him. I'm not doing some quick rush up the map. This is just spending resources in something that's not going to allow him to overrun this. In terms of the tech, as soon as the gateway's done, we're building a cyber core. As soon as the cyber core is done, we're building a Stargate. And as soon as the Stargate's done, we're building a fleet beacon. So we're rushing out to Tempest right away. Cyber core is done, and we're starting the Stargates. The +1 upgrade actually has significance, but it's really hard to fit in, so I wouldn't suggest getting it, or at least not getting it until later. But there's a lot of things that are a one-shot with 5 Tempests that +1 will make it a one-shot with 4 Tempests. So like killing a Viking or a Cyclone or a Siege Tank. There's like lots of units that are right in that range of 5-shotting. Or one-shotting with 5 Tempests. So that's where the upgrade comes in handy. But once again, it's not really, you can't really afford it early, and if you get it later, it's not really, it doesn't come out in time, so it's just something I would suggest getting if you're floating gas. If you got 2 Tempests queued up and you still have enough gas to start the upgrade, go ahead. Starting the Fleet Beacon once the Stargate is done. As soon as the Stargate's done, you want to build an Oracle unless you're already getting sieged by tanks, in which case you want to start a Void Ray. Because a Void Ray can push back tanks. And the Tempest can push back tanks too, but if you wait for the Tempest, you might lose too many cannons in the process, and then you might overwhelm you. So the Void Ray is really key at taking out a siege tank that's pushing forward on these cannons. First Oracle, I like to like come in and see if I can pot shot kill like 2 or 3 workers, force out a missile turret. But its main purpose is to grant vision for your Tempest. So you want to use the Revelation. And that's about it. If you think it's going to try to bust down the ramp, you can also set up a, what do they call it, a stasis ward? Is that what it's called? Yeah, stasis ward, like right here. And then when they come down the ramp, not only will you freeze half of his army, but you'll also, the frozen part of the army will also block the ramp. This siege tank is going to be a big problem for me. I never snipe it, but for some reason I don't know it's there, and I keep trying to build structures in range of the siege tank. So the micro in this battle is not that great on either side, I would say. In terms of chrono boosts, use your first couple of chrono boosts on workers, and then start saving it up from then on, so that you can do quite a few chronos in a row once the Stargate finishes. And you want to keep that constant Tempest production. Like right now I should be building one, but I'm not. So he's doing a lot of good things. Getting a Viking count quite high is a good way to counter this. Having SCVs available to always be repairing really helps negate the low DPS. See, this is the dumb thing I keep doing all games, trying to build structures in the range of that tank. It just instantly die. It's like my brain can't figure that out while I'm doing everything else. Unfortunately, this Toastus pylon is right within range of the siege tank too. That was a little bit painful. Now I have nothing zoning up the Vikings. As you can see, that's why the cannons come in a little bit handy. Adding another Stargate because I wasn't building macroing perfectly on the first Stargate, plus I have a second base now, so on 4 gas I can afford more. I'll talk more about the second base once we get to the end of this replay. I guess we can go 2 times, but it's basically just keep building Tempest and then kite. Try not to lose any. Not sure what happened to my Oracle, but if you lose it, might be worth rebuilding it, especially against something like Vikings. That was optimistic of him. He really wanted to take down that last Tempest, but I had shield batteries and cannons. It's kind of tough for him. Notice also where he had floated out his command center too, if you build a second one. Kept an eye on that. You want to keep him on one base, because on one base, he won't be able to muster up an army to build through this. Or to blast through it, I guess. It's a little salty facing you, something different. And that's GG. Yeah, you can just kind of bleed him out on one base, but you should also try to push, because if you ever get in range of the middle line, the game's over. Yeah, once you've cleared out his high ground attacking too, it's nice to get some cannons or shield batteries right up against the edge here. Maybe start a high ground pylon. As you know, the further these Tempests travel away from this area, the more damage, the more threat they're under of getting sniped. If you're facing something like this as a Terran player, all your only goal really is to keep him off your mineral line. So you really should keep your army way back, force him to try to commit, travel far away from here, and then once you think you can do it, charge in and blast as many of these Tempests as you can. But just kind of like picking back and forth this close to like all the defenses probably just means you're going to be constantly bleeding units of Tempest. If you're doing mass Viking, it might be the exception, because Vikings can actually get damage done from that sort of range. But if you're trying to pick off things with like Marines and Cyclones and stuff, you don't want to be dabbling this close to here. As for defense, you may have noticed I didn't have a single piece of defense on my main base. Now I'm doing this, traveling around looking for proxies, because that's a painful thing. But in doing this build a lot, I realized there's just a lot to defend at home. You have extra minerals, but depending on what you face, it's hard to know where to put the placement, right? So if you're going to face a bunch of Cyclones, especially if they're proxied, but say he like if he made proxy Cyclone and then you had a repairing SCV with the 2 to 4 Cyclones, you really need cannons right at the ramp, so you get him clustered up here, and you need a lot. Like 3 cannons and a shield battery just to start, because Cyclones are really good against cannons. And then if you're facing Liberators, to actually cover everything, you need 4 cannons. Like you gotta build like a square around here, because even a triangle will leave openings. You could do 3, because it's okay if he shuts down a couple mineral patches, as long as he can't shut down your gas. But then it just kind of gets annoying. And then if you do have 4 spread out cannons, then all of a sudden if he comes to say like 1 medevac bio drop, say a Marauder and 6 Marines, then 1 cannon does nothing. It can cut through that cannon and lose nothing, and then all of a sudden he's got range on your mineral line. So I'm trying to figure out the defense for this. The other thing is you do have recall too, so you can recall back your Oracle or recall back a single Tempest. What I found the easiest and probably most effective defense is not to spend 0 minerals on your defense, and instead to do this. Build a nexus as close as you can to where your defense is. Sometimes you can even build it in the natural, which is fine. And like, say I have the nexus over here, this is fine too, because it's very easy to fully saturate the gas geysers. Like, you know, if I had a nexus here, you just put 3 in this gas and maybe 5 or 6 in that gas, and that'll get full gas income. And the mineral income is not that important. Minerals are just being spent on more cannons and shield batteries. But typically you build the nexus just at whatever the closest base is. And the nice thing about this is that your Tempests are hanging out here, and they can easily come over to defend this. You put some cannons like not in the front where they can get picked off, but far in the back, like maybe like 1, 2, 3, something like that. And that way you have somewhere to flee your drones to, your probes to, if this gets attacked. And when you bring your Tempest over, all of a sudden you have the cannons are closest to your Tempest, so you get the cannon coverage on your Tempest. So it's very easy to hold this base. So basically what I do is I just sacrifice the space. If he ever decides to send something out, I'm like, okay, you got it. It's yours. The forge is not that important later on. You already have some cannons down, and then you can spend your minerals solely on shield batteries instead of a mix of the two. Once this nexus finishes, you probably want to move a good portion of your mineral workers over to this space, because this space is less likely to die than this one. So that's how I handle the defense. And if he never attacks a space and you got this one going, all of a sudden you're on 4 gas, you can add another Stargate and build 2 Tempests at a time. So that is my Proxy Tempest build. Yeah, pretty good win rate. If you know how to play standard Protoss, PvT is actually really strong right now, so you don't have to do something cheesy like this. But I was going for weird things versus Protoss or versus Terran, and actually PvT was my worst matchup. So until I discovered this build, I had a pretty big losing rate. With this, pretty high win rate. One option too is as soon as the Cyber Core finishes, if you want, you can build a single Adept and kind of use it as a scout. So you can stand here and then send shades into his base, see what he's building, see if he has a command center. If he has a command center, I want to keep an eye over here and say over here. You know, if he's reactoring a starport, he's probably going Vikings. If he has a tech lab on his factory, he's probably going siege tanks. You can get a lot of information with a single Adept, so it's up to you if you want to do that or not. It's a bit of an investment. And I don't think I have anything else to say. That is this build. Hope you guys enjoy if you want to dabble in Protoss, and I'm out of here. Goodbye.